So let's discuss the case with 3 coins. Previously we discussed a case with 2 coins. Now let's discuss with the 3 coins. So before we discuss anything, the most important thing is getting about the total number of outcomes. So let's start with this one. Total number of outcomes. In this case, like in the case of die, we write total number of outcome as 6 raised to n. Here we will be writing 2 raised to n, where n is a number of coins, right? In our case, we are having 3 coins. So let's write over here 2 raised to 3, that is 8. So how many outcomes are we going to get when we have 3 coins? We are going to get 8 number of outcomes. Remember, if we have 4 coins, that will be 8 2s are 16. So there will be 16 number of outcomes. We are not going to discuss about 4 coins. Don't worry. Let's start with the question. If 3 different coins are tossed together, then find the probability of getting 2 heads. Okay. So we need to find the probability of getting 2 heads. No any other information is given. So first of all, let's talk about the outcomes. How many outcomes are we going to get? We know there are 8 outcomes, but what are they? That's interesting. Okay, so let's start. You can see already over here, I've drawn a diagram for understanding that. Okay, here we are going to talk about 3 coins. So this is the first coin, this is the second, and this is the third one, right? So that's why I've written 3 times. Previously, in case of 2 coins, we stop at this point only, right? Because there were 2 coins. If we have 4, we can still further branch out and we can write it. We don't need to discuss that. Okay, so let's talk about the outcomes. So I'm going to start in this way: H, H, and H. So the first outcome is H, H, and H. Done. Now second outcome, this H over here and branch out down here. So H, H, T, H, H, and T. Similarly, H, T, H. So H, T, H. And here H, T, T. So H, T, T. Then, okay, so this complete upper part is over. Now come to down. This T, then T, H, H. So T, H, H. Then T, H, T. T, H, T. Then T, T, H. T, T, H. And finally T, T, T. So T, T, T. So you can count, there are 8 outcomes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 outcomes, right? So we are sorted out with the what are the outcomes. We know how many outcomes are there. Now what we want to find the probability of getting 2 heads. So let's write over here probability of getting 2 heads. This is what we are interested in. Now we have total number of outcomes, right? Denominator is sorted out. What we are interested in to find the favorable outcomes. Now we want 2 heads. How many times 2 heads are coming? Only 2 heads. Now remember, there are 3 heads over here as well, but it is not mentioned there. Only 2 heads. So talk only about 2 heads. So how many are there? Okay, HHT. So this one, HTH, 2, then 3. That's it, right? Now you must be thinking HHT and HTH. So order doesn't matter, right? So how many outcomes are we getting? 1, 2, and 3. So let's write here that favorable outcomes are 3. So let's find the probability. We have numerator, we have denominator. 3 by 8 will be the answer. So let's write it down. 2 heads is equal to favorable outcome 3 and total number of outcomes are 8. So that is my final answer. Remember, few already remember this outcomes as well, right? And if you want to write in exam, but you need to practice little bit. My concept was to just explain how these outcomes are coming. I'm going to keep this diagram for the other questions as well. Now let's move to the next question. Let's discuss one more question related to 3 coins. Let's start with the question. 3 different coins are tossed together find the probability of getting at least 2 heads. Okay, at least 2 heads. Okay, before we move on, let's write the total number of outcomes. We know already that is 8. We can see over here as well. So total outcomes is equal to 8. Done. Now what we want to find? At least 2 heads. Okay, so probability of at least 2 heads is equal to question mark. Right? Now we have discussed this word at least previously in previous questions. Let's repeat one more time as well. At least means minimum. Minimum, at least 2 heads we want. Minimum. So we can write that number of heads can be greater or equal to 2. 2 heads भी चलेंगे, 3 भी चलेंगे, 4 भी चलेंगे. But we don't have 4 heads over here. But 1 is not accepted. 2 or more than 2. Okay, so let's count 2 and more than 2. How many are there for 2 and more than 2? So here there are 3 heads accepted, 2 heads accepted, 2 heads accepted. 1 head, is it accepted? No. 2 heads here accepted. Then okay, 1 head not accepted, 1 head and no head. Right? So how many outcomes are favorable? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have counted for the 2 heads and the 3 heads. If we want to mention over here, then you can mention for 2 heads how many outcomes are there? 1, 2 and 3. And for 3 heads how many outcomes are there? There is only 1. Right? So if you add both of them, you are going to get 3 plus 1, 4. Very simple logic. So let's write the probability. So probability of at least how many heads? 2 heads. That will be favorable outcome. What is the favorable outcome? 4 over here. And what is the total number of outcome? 8. That is 1 by 2. Very simple, right? This is the probability of getting at least 2 heads. Let's write for the probability of 2 tails as well, right? So probability of at least 2 tails, right? If we want to find it, similarly same logic we will use, that we want to find favorable outcome for number of tails should be greater or equal to 2, right? So number of tails, 2 tails are accepted and 3 tails are accepted. Let's see over here, 2 tails, no tail, 1 tail, 1, here 2. Okay, so this is what is our interested outcome first. Then 1 tail not accepted, 2 tails yes accepted, then 2 tails okay accepted here as well, and finally 3 tails. Wow, right? So see, 4 outcomes here as well, 4 favorable outcomes, similarly as the previous one, right? So let's write that directly. At least 2 tails is equal to, favorable outcomes are how many? You can see this yellow one, 4 over 8, that is 1 by 2. So probability is almost same for both of them, that at least for 2 heads and at least for 2 tails. So this is how we deal with these sums related to 3 coins, right? If you don't remember the outcomes, right, you can draw this one in exam. You will get the better understanding if you draw this. Number of outcomes will be 8. Then proceed according to the condition that's given in the question, apply the formula and get the answer.